And just when you guys thought you wouldn't hear from me again, right? You know it's that time of the month. Mid-April, we're going to review March 2024 stats for the Stellar MLS, and then kind of look at things on a national level. I hope everybody is well. I hope I have been sorely missed by everybody. Hopefully by most of you, right? Your Realtor DPU HBR Group eXp Realty out of Central Florida. We're gonna dig in here real quick. I know some crazy things going on in the world right now, and maybe this isn't the time or the place to touch on that, but I'm going to. So prayers for the people of Israel and everything that's going on over there, right? So I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to dig right into the stats, but I just wanted to make mention of that. As of the shooting of this video, April 17th at 5:45 p.m. Eastern. So, all right, so let's jump in. Let me screen share. And let's see what's going on in the world of real estate. So there's a couple of things. Hopefully that's up and you have that, right? And you're looking at it. So a couple of things that were rather shocking to me. We're going to compare from February to March, right? My biggest, takeaway from this is the months of inventory. And on a national level, these numbers are not ringing true, but on an insular or a direct level here, I guess this is where we're at. So 4.4 months supply of inventory in February, we're down. The month supply of inventory went down. In January from February, it was up, and now it's gone. And now it's gone down. So actually, it's trended down. Now that I'm seeing it on here, in January, it was 5.4 month supply. So I digress. I stand corrected. February of 4.4, and now in March of 3.7 month supply. So we've really got to keep an eye on that, on those inventory levels, because we are seeing longer days on market, a return to normal. We're not being spoiled and seeing things go into contract in 24, 48, 72 hours. Back in the day when I first started, it wasn't uncommon to have 12-month listing agreements, year-long listing agreements. You haven't seen those in a long, long time. Be prepared. I think we're going to start seeing them again, at a minimum 6 months. So active listings, let's look at February, 58,000. Comparable, hardly, they were flat. So very comparable the next month over, being March. Days on market, flat, same from February to March. Our average sales price, that was surprising as well. So help me make sense of this. So January to February, the average sales price dropped 1%. And then from February to March, it bumped up 4% from 454 up to 470. So that is something to take note of and keep an eye on going into April stats, right? We're going to have to see what that average sales price does. Me personally, excessive days on market, rising inventory on a national level. I think these inventory numbers are going to continue to creep up. I don't think we're going to see anything in the way of rate cuts. If we do, I think they're going to be marginal because of the good economic data that came out here recently with respect to inflation and unemployment numbers. And like I've said from the beginning, I think we're going to end up flat, maybe see some slight depreciation year over year. These numbers right now are telling a different story. So I don't have a crystal ball, right? I'm not the end all be all. Otherwise, I'd be the oracle like Bill Gates, and I'm not. So we're just going to have to, maybe we should ask Bill what he thinks is going to happen. So we're just going to have to stay tuned, right? Total sales volume was 7.4 billion from in March. That's up approximately 25% from February. So total sales volume is up. Anything else of noteworthiness? Let's look at pending sales just as an indicator. Those pending sales were 19,000 just over in February, 21,000 pending sales in March. That's up 7%. So everything is trending. Going into spring, obviously, we're going to see a little bit of a busier time and more activity. But we've got to keep an eye on inventory, got to keep an eye on days on market, and look at that average sales price when we revisit this again in April, right? All right, let's keep on going. Try to get you through this. Confusion leads to fear, fear leads to panic, panic leads to paralysis with respects to higher rates, and the uncertainty of what's going on in the market. When you buy a home, you should definitely have someone who represents your interest during the whole process. 76% of people polled agreed with that. Buying a home is something you can do mostly on your own, perhaps just with a lawyer to help with paperwork. Only 24% of the general population agreed with that. 91% of respondents agree it would be very stressful to navigate the home buying process without a real estate agent or broker. 87% of respondents believe a real estate agent or broker is an essential trusted advisor for a home buyer. I'm not trying to be biased, right? You would expect these things to come out of Steve Pugh's mouth, but these were independent polls, third-party, unbiased, legitimate polls that were taken. So it's not something I just made up on my computer 5 minutes ago. So will inventory improve for the spring housing market? That's what we got to look at. Inventory of homes actively for sale increased in 45 out of the 50 largest metros compared with last year. And in 4 large metros, inventory was above pre-pandemic levels. So let's look at this year-over-year change in inventory, right? On a national level, 23% more homes for sale versus March of last year. What I find shocking is look at Florida as a whole. 57%. We've got to be, that is the highest change in inventory year over year. Plus 57% more homes for sale in the state of Florida versus March 23 last year. That is huge. But yet the localized numbers of our stellar MLS, those stats don't fall in line with Florida as a whole. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the Central Florida market and see where it goes in April. Next highest, let's see if we can find it. Looks like Vermont. Looks like Vermont at 37, nearly 38% year-over-year change in inventory. For the first 3 months of this year, the inventory of homes actively for sale is at its highest level since 2020. However, while inventory this March is much improved compared with the previous 3 years, it is still down 38% compared with typical 2017 to 2019 levels. So once again, still a seller's market, right? Anything lower than 6 months, the shift is 5 to 7 months of inventory. Anything lower than a 6-month supply of homes, still in the seller's market. And at least in Central Florida, those numbers are pointing towards a seller's market, right? In March, as in the previous month, the growth in homes, particularly priced in the 200 to 350 range, outpaced all other price categories. Home inventory in this range grew by 30.5%. So that inventory in those price ranges, 2 to 350 on a national level, grew 30% compared to last year. Active monthly listings in thousands, 23%, as we said, on a national level. More homes actively for sale on a typical day in March compared with that same time in March 2023. Providing a boost to overall inventory, sellers turned out in higher numbers this March as newly listed homes were 15% above last year's level. This marks the 5th month of increasing listing activity after a 17-month streak of decline. So everything is trending towards higher and increasing inventory as we continue into the spring, summer. Side note for you guys, right? If you look at statistically best time to list a home, since they've been tracking data between April 14th and April 21st, based on those list dates, sellers have netted more money and sold in a short amount of time than any other time in the year. April 14th to April 21st. And then if you look at the increase in inventory and the slight depreciation month over month, we went January, February to March. It is back up slightly. That's why we need to wait for April. But based on January and February numbers, sellers were losing about $118 a day for every day they didn't get on the market, for every day their home sat on the market. So just something to think about. Consumer attitudes towards home selling conditions increased markedly in February, with current homeowners in particular expressing greater optimism that it's a good time to sell. A development that may foreshadow, if these increases in inventory keep going, right? Going to change the dynamic, because all the stats, including the ones we looked at national level, show that increase in inventory. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that going into April. Mortgage rates. Federal Reserve influences mortgage rates but doesn't set them. I touched on it briefly. So the meeting that just took place, where the consumer price index and the stats came out, economic data with respect to unemployment and inflation, those numbers were good, right? Well, they were better than expected. So we're the jury's out on rate cuts. I think there's a 50% chance in the meeting end of July, I think it's July 31st, that the Fed will cut rates. Looking at the economic data, I just don't know if it's going to happen, right? Current expectations are that the Fed will start to cut rates at some point between June and September. The exact timing depends on how incoming economic data looks. The Fed's March meeting did not set up the prospect of a near-term interest rate cut, but a summer cut appears likely. We'll have to see. I think there's a 50% chance that they do, right? Depending on maybe some other tidbits of economic data leading up to the July 31st meeting. That's where we are with respects to rate projections. End of Q4 2024, we're looking at 6.25, just under. Demand based on rate environment. So when you're trending upwards, 6.5, 7, 7.5, that buyer demand gets weak. Obviously, anything lower than 6.5, and we're off to the races. Home price appreciation forecast, I've given you my view. I honestly think we're going to be flat, maybe 1 to 2%. They have an average here of all 7 of 3%, which 3 to 5% appreciation year over year is considered a normal and healthy market. What else have we got? Renting versus owning. Among the top considerations are the financial costs and benefits of renting versus owning. And one approach is to compare the monthly cost of renting against buying a home. Monthly mortgage payments. February 2024 rental report. This is the median asking rent in the 50 largest metros. Median. Guys, you got studios at 1426, but monthly mortgage 1984. That's the median, 1984 a month. If you look at the price appreciation projections, right, over the next 5 years, at a balanced market, 3 to 5%, we're looking at an equity gain of about 83,000. Take that 83,000, you minus out the cost of buying with respect to down payment and the such, you're still looking at a gain of 66,000 over 5 years, as opposed to even at today's rates and prices, as opposed to rent, where you've thrown probably that much away, if not more. So let me make sure that we haven't missed anything here, guys, because I kind of jumped ahead there. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. And there you have it. You are done with me for another 30 days. All right. I know as I said before, I know I will be sorely missed. Be blessed. Be safe out there. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any additional questions around some of the information that we covered, or you want to subscribe to our newsletter, just go ahead. There'll be info attached or a link attached to this video. And if you have any direct questions on our Smart Seller Listing Program, or questions around purchasing your first home as a first-time home buyer, you can always reach out. Your Realtor Steve Pugh, HPR Group, eXp Realty. Let me get it off screen chat. There you go. Thanks for watching. Be blessed and take care. We'll see you in about 30 days.